In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Hunt for Urusine battle pack featuring Ashrad Hett and the Dark Woman. So this is a comic pack that I've been anticipating for a very long time now. There's been a couple scenarios where I've had it in hand and I was like, should I get this right now? No, I'll hold off for another time. And it's been going on like that for probably over a decade now at this point. But fortunately, I've decided I'm just going to go ahead and get this. I got it for a pretty good price. I didn't pay much more than maybe $50 for this, which to today's standards for the comic packs especially, that's not bad at all. So $25 per figure I think is worth it for these. So I do have the Sharad Hett, who is Ashrad's father, reviewed on the channel if you want to check out that pack. He also came with Kiadi Mundi. It's a solid action figure pack at the time. This one's probably a little bit easier to get a hold of compared to that one, but this is still a very nice pack. So if you did not know already, Ashrad Hett is the Jedi who eventually becomes Darth Krayt. Who would ever think that, just looking at this guy? Of course, here he's much younger, and it's a little bit of a different time. But still, pretty interesting concept. I guess you could say the same thing about young Anakin Skywalker eventually becoming Darth Vader. Who would ever think such a thing would happen? But it's the same thing with this. So a little bit of the backstory about this pack. Like I said, it's revolved around the hunt for Urusine. I think what happens is Urusine ends up taking out Sharad Hett. Then Ashrad Hett goes on his own crusade, hunting down Urusine. And the Dark Woman, I think, is kind of like his mentor, who eventually, I think she wants to tag along with Ashrad Hett in hunting down Urusine, but he denies it, so he ends up hunting her on his own. So then Urusine at this point is being hunted down by two different parties. Dark Woman is either Urusine's mentor or I know it says it back here. Yeah, Scene's former teacher. So every once in a while we see Urusine with a lightsaber, and I think this is where that concept comes from, is she was trained by the Dark Woman here, and then yeah, that's where she gets her lightsaber skills. So I wanted to show what this pack looks like brand new in the package. I think this is the first real comic pack I've showed off brand new in the package on the channel. It was number 8 at the time, and I'm pretty sure this was in the 30th anniversary line, so this is pretty early on still. There's the action figures there. Ashrad's lightsaber is kind of loose there. Probably if I worked with this enough, I could probably get that to fall out of his hand there and out of place. But we'll be opening that here in a minute anyway. So pretty solid action figures. It's always nice to be able to expand the Jedi collection. Looks like a pretty interesting comic book back there. See the image of Urusine there. This image of Ashrad Hett. And the Dark Woman here. Yeah, this is the 30th anniversary logo there. This is comic book number 31 in this particular story. Dark Horse for 20 years at this point, so Dark Horse has been around since the 80s. Then for the back there, there's the description up there. And Dark Woman seeks atonement for her failure to help Steen. So the action figures advertised there. Some of the other comic packs in the line. I do have this Mara Jade. Looks like they gave her a purple lightsaber there, which is interesting, but the one she actually comes with is a light blue one. I don't have the Luke, but I would like to get that at some point to complete the set, and then once I do, I'll be sure to review it on the channel. This Affinities pack, I've been eyeing for a while now as well, mostly for the Leia, because I want to treat her as like the EU version of Leia, where she eventually becomes a Jedi, and this is probably as close as we're going to get. But this Vader is pretty interesting as well. I have seen some videos about that. Looks pretty good. Of course, this pack here. So still lots of other comic packs out there to get. But we're getting there to completing them all. It's one of the goals I have for this channel, is I would like to review all the comic packs at some point. It seems to be a hit on the channel, and it's one of my personal favorite sublines in Hasbro Star Wars. And there's so many cool ones out there, and I would like to try and get them all. Even the ones that aren't so popular seem to be unique in their own way. But anyways, we'll go ahead and open this pack and see what it's all about. And now that I have the 2 action figures out of the package, I have to say I am very happy I finally decided to get this set. I actually am not recording this video until about a day later, actually, so I've already put Shrad Hett and Ashrad Hett side by side, and it's nice to see father and son finally united after 7+ years now at this point that I've had the Shrad Hett pack. And I'll bring them out here in a little bit and we'll see what they look like side by side. I also had a chance to read the comic as well, and I have to say it was a very enlightening comic. You can definitely see the dark side tendencies that Ashrad Hett has here, and we'll take a look at that here in a second as well. So overall, I'm very happy with these action figures. Like I said, I will have to leave them here on stands for a little bit because the Dark Woman's foot, especially her left foot here, was bowed inward. So I'll have to keep her on a stand like that for a while just to hopefully widen that stance of hers, and so she can be totally planted on the ground without having this awkward angle. Neither action figure here can really stand too well on their own. They don't have any ankle articulation, unfortunately. And of course with the stance, the way they're positioned, it's not very friendly for standing on a shelf without a stand, I suppose. But no big deal, it's an easy fix, and I prefer to keep my action figures on stands anyway. I will bring out the package here one more time. So I was wondering, it looked kind of yellowed from when they were all in the package still, and I figured, well, maybe it's the green from like the comic book, and then Ashrad had the kind of greenish tint he has to him. But it turns out the plastic here is a little bit on the yellow side, I suppose. Mostly in the bubble area here. Just something I was curious about. And before we look at the action figures, go ahead and see what this comic book is all about. In fact, I'll just move this here. So, 30th anniversary, comic book number 31, The Hunt for Ura Seen. And there's some extra characters in here I really didn't expect being in here, actually. Adi Gallia shows up, for example. So we have Ura Seen there, and she has this short lightsaber. I have an interesting character. I do have to get Ura Seen reviewed on the channel here pretty soon. I do have the Clone Wars figure of her and the TBC one, which are both great action figures. So we see Ura Seen here, and it looks like she's staking out, about ready to snipe someone. Yeah, some senator here, Quarren senator. Maybe it's Tessek. Guards protect me. Yeah, so this is supposed to be Ashrad Hett, which is interesting. He has a red lightsaber in this comic pack, or in this comic book, I mean, but he has green on his actual figure. Here's Adi Gallia. Then Ki-Adi-Mundi, which looks somewhat similar to the comic pack one. He has the purple lightsaber, which is interesting. So we got a little bit of action here. These Quarren bodyguards blasting away at Ura, and Adi Gallia steps in. Yeah, I totally forgot as well that Ashrad Hett was the apprentice of Ki-Adi-Mundi. I do recall reading about that years ago, but it's not something you think about on a daily basis. And here we have the Dark Woman show up. She seems like she's more on the friendly side. Nice artwork. I have to leave now. Can you fly the ship, you filthy savage? We don't leave without my master. So, Ashrad Hett has somewhat of a moral code about him. And of course this senator here is being very demanding of him. Ashrad sticks with his guns and says, "We are staying until everyone is on board." So somehow Urusine makes her way in, and this confrontation between her and Ashrad. And we have a duel between them. Seems like a lot of people like to mistreat him verbally. So Ashrad's down. Seems like he's having a hard time against Ura here. And he pulls out the dual lightsabers here. Both of them do. So it seems like Urusine's trying to goat him and fill him with hate, I guess. So she pulls him by his hair. And Ashrad, in a fit of rage, lashes out at Ura. And it seems like he takes her out. Right there. Degalia's injured here, but she is still alive. Everybody else makes their way back, and we see Urusine here lying in front of the entire crew. So Ashrad, you can tell, feels somewhat shameful of what he did, and he asks Ki-Adi-Mundi, or he tells Ki-Adi-Mundi that he does not deserve to be his apprentice anymore, and asks if he can leave. It's not the Jedi way. Interesting take. Even Anakin Skywalker wasn't quite like that. Even when he had his dark moments, it wasn't like, "Oh, I need to leave the Jedi Order." Kind of doubled down and was like, "No, I am a Jedi, and I can do better." Ashrad seems to have a little bit of a different approach. But the Dark Woman does reach out and says, "No, I will take you in as my apprentice," essentially. And Ashrad's not very sure of himself, and then we get interrupted here. Turns out Urusine's not really taken out there, and she's on the hunt again. Degalia is recovering there, so we'll have to continue the comic to see what happens. Then we got some advertisements. I do recall seeing these Unleashed packs, especially this one here, A New Empire. Those were some pretty nice ones back in the day. And usual advertisement. Then we got our advertisement for the Knights of the Republic comic book series. Then we got an advertisement from the Saga collection with the Gragra here. So it turns out Gragra is actually a woman. I didn't realize that. And they put her 15 minutes of fame lasted only one. I do recall when this action figure was initially released. Never purchased it, but perhaps I will someday. So that's the entire comic book. And then we got this little pamphlet here. I think I may have shown this before on the channel. If not, we'll do it one more time here real quick. So some of the initial figures in 30th anniversary. I have just about all these, and if they don't have a video already, I will get to one at some point. The Sith Infiltrator and the V-Wing I used to own. I do hope to track those down again at some point. I'd really like to feature those on the channel. And some of the other comic book packs. Those were the first ones. Of course, the Unleash sets. And then more of the gimmicky type stuff, I guess. Then we have these battle packs. I do recall seeing the Stanton 4-1 in stores. It's actually not a bad pack. Perhaps I'll get that someday. And Dagobah one. Sometimes we get annoyed getting these every time we got an action figure. But looking back on it, it's like, man, I wish Hasbro would still do stuff like this. Just kind of a nice way to advertise some of the action figures and jog your memory that, oh yeah, I forgot about that one. So let's look at the main character here first. Ashrad. It's a Tuscan. He has a Tuscan background. And as I mentioned, a little background about him. He is the son of Sharad Hett, who I do have reviewed on the channel. And he eventually, I think he gets put in a stasis just before Order 66, or around that time, I forget which. And then he eventually is reawakened and becomes Darth Krayt. And I do have the Darth Krayt pack reviewed on the channel if you want to check that out. So those robes are mostly simple, not a whole lot to say about it. But they are nice. Definitely has the Tuscan look going on to him. Has his Tuscan scarf or helmet. Looks pretty good. Nice detailing in that. And the rest of his outfit. He does have a hole here where you can plug in a lightsaber, but I don't think there really is a way you can plug in one. None of the two he comes with seem to have a peg at all, so you would have to take a spare. And some nice pouches and detailing on his belt. Yeah, his hair there, it actually has it's cut around that so you'd be able to put his helmet on without that hair interfering. It's a nice innovation on Hasbro's part. Sometimes they don't do that and then you're not able to fit a helmet on too well. I suppose the only minor complaint about this action figure is his awkward stance. This was kind of a common thing at this time. Like I said, you'll need a stand. It's really not that big of a deal. So we'll take this helmet off. It's easy enough. He has a very nice head sculpt. Has all those face tattoos. It looks very nice. He has that detailed braid there. Scarf here is removable. You would have to probably pop his head off in order to take that off. And his head's not on a ball joint, it's actually on a swivel, so it would actually be on a pin instead. So speaking of his articulation, he does have a swivel neck. Mine's kind of stiff, and that might be just because it's never really been worked before. So I'll have to work with that. It does have the swivel neck there, and then hinged shoulders, swivel elbows, which I know a lot of people don't like, but I'm not really bothered by that. Let's see here. Yeah, he does have a swivel forearms, at least for that side. Sometimes it's not consistent. Yeah, he has it for both sides. He has a swivel waist, and swivel hips, and then hinged knees, and no articulation to ankles. In terms of weapons and accessories, he has the 2 lightsabers here, and a few other things. Of course, his helmet. Like I said, has that cutout there. It fits easy enough over his head. So here's his very unique lightsaber. It has this, I would assume it's supposed to be like a braid or something. It looks like it almost has teeth on it. Or yeah, you know what? This does have a peg. I didn't really notice it from that angle. But anyway, pretty unique lightsaber. It's a large hilt actually. So you might have to leave that in his hand for a while in order to keep that in place. It does have the removable lightsaber blade, which is something we don't really see anymore. And something interesting you can do is take his gaffy stick and actually put it at the end of the lightsaber here. Which I don't know how that would really work, if that's something that Ashra could really do, or if this was Hasbro's innovation. But that is an interesting thing. I suppose if you take the lightsaber crystal out, you can do whatever you want. So it is a heavily modified lightsaber. Gaffy stick looks pretty good. You could have him just hold it as is without being on the actual hilt. You'd have him do something like that. Fight with a lightsaber and a gaffy stick. And let's see how it looks on his belt here. Something tells me it would look kind of awkward. Let's see. Yeah, so it stays in place there. Doesn't seem like it'll fall off, but you have this here. I wonder if that can be taken off actually. Let's see here. No, it doesn't look like it. But still, if you have an extra hilt, it should work no problem. Then he comes with this extra lightsaber, which has a little bit more of a standard hilt. I think this is unique to him. I don't think that's a removable blade. Yeah. It's not necessary anyway. It's a nice green blade. I do notice both lightsaber blades are a slightly different shade of green. This one, the standard lightsaber, is much more vibrant compared to the one on his unique lightsaber there. This one's a little more paler, I suppose. So that's Ashra Hett. Let's take a look at the Dark Woman. A little more basic. I kind of visualize her as like a Night Sister or something along those lines. Or like a Dark Lady of the Sith, like Lumia. So overall, it's a pretty good action figure. I'm finally glad to add her to the collection. I think she'll look good on I'll keep her in more like the neutral gray Jedi category. I have to admit, I don't know a whole lot about her character other than just from the comic here. And that she was Erosine's mentor. So I'll have to go back and read some more about her story at some point. Head sculpt's pretty good. Looks kind of grainy on mine, but I think that's part of the texture detail. I think they're going for like she's got sand in her face or something like that. Perhaps Anakin wouldn't find her very attractive because of that. Hair is mostly white, I suppose. Does have some dirt mixed in with it. And the rest of her outfit's pretty simple. Lots of browns, some purples, some minor designs here and there. Carries over into her boots. There's this little skirt in the back here. Does have some pouches here and there. In terms of her articulation, her head is on a ball joint. She does have hinge shoulders. Nothing in the elbows, which is kind of interesting. She does have swivel wrists though, and swivel waist, swivel hips, and no articulation in knees or ankles. So, kind of a unique articulation. Not too often we see like hinge shoulders and then nothing in the elbows. In terms of her weapons and accessories, she comes with a very unique lightsaber. So you can see it has that purplish hilt. We'll just take it out of her hand here. Something much more homemade. And she kind of has a bluish blade here. And the hilt is removable from the blade. Be careful with that, it is a little bit of a tight fit. I find the best way to get those in is to twist them instead of force it. Well, that fits well in her right hand here. Her left hand's much more of a like a force gesture pose. Yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say about these two action figures. Let's go ahead and bring out two relevant characters. It's Ashrad Hett, or with Shrad Hett here. Like I said, I'm very happy to see father and son side by side here. It's very nice. And we got Ki-Adi-Mundi. And all four of these look really good together. I'm not 100% sure if these comics are all related to one another. And I think at this point, Erosine is already unfortunately taken out Shrad Hett. I do know that bit of the story. It's finally nice to combine these two comic packs. Would I recommend them for your collection? I totally would. I know I've gave my take on the Shrad Hett pack before, but with this Ashrad one, very happy to have this. I think this is one of the highlights of the early comic packs line. Usually when most people think of like the 30th anniversary packs, this is probably one that comes to mind. And it's a solid one all around. Very unique Jedi, or gray Jedi I should say. I'm not sure what the Dark Woman's totally categorized as. She might be like the Jolie Bindo, I guess, where she was a Jedi, but then she left the Order, or maybe she never really was a Jedi. Just happened to learn the Force and was good at it on her own. Then Ashrad Hett here, these are between him and his father. They're the only two Tusken Jedi that you're ever going to get, probably. So something unique to add to the collection. And they're solid action figures for what they are. I know some people will be complaining about their articulation. I can understand that, but I think it's good enough for what it is. I get them in all the poses I pretty much want them in anyway. It's during an era where the lightsaber blades were still removable from the hilts, which I have mixed feelings about that. I've had my share of lightsabers break over the years as well, but sometimes it's nice to be able to have that just to have the one piece instead of an unignited hilt and then an ignited one. But to each their own. But overall, solid pack. Finally happy to own this, and it's highly recommended. One more thing I'll mention is Ashrad's helmet there is actually wrapped in this plastic bubble that you see there. It was very hard to take out of the package. It has that lip there, or that tab that's inserted in the plastic, and you actually have to cut behind the bubble here in order to try and get that out. It's kind of interesting. It's something I've really seen packaged like that before. But anyways, that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for plenty more reviews in the future. There will always be more to come. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I always appreciate all your support. And check out some of the links in the description if you haven't done so already. As always, thanks for watching.